everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are here for one of our ranking episodes. And we are taking a little break from Christmas to do a bonus episode in honor of our girl Meg Ryan coming back to the cinemas.
Yay.
This is so exciting for what happens later. We'll share our thoughts. We both got a chance to see it. But we are ranking Meg Ryan's romantic movies. And I came up with a list of 13 because that's kind of usually around where we like to do for these 12, 13. And then other people said, oh, what about In the Land of Women? That's romance, or, different things. And so, yeah, most movies have like a little scene of romance, but we felt like we got sort of the iconic ones, or we came up with a list of 13. And we did not have Prelude to a Kiss because we could not find it anywhere. We scoured the internet, could not find it. And you could only buy it, and it was an expensive buy. So
it's not worth it, right?
Yeah. So we don't have that.
Just throwing that out there.
But it's exciting to have her back. I mean, she hadn't done a movie, I think, since 2015.
Not a lead. No, she's been in things sprinkled out, but she hasn't really acted much in the last couple of years, which is kind of sad because she's always a presence, whether you like a movie or not that she was in. She had a presence.
Yeah, her last movie, where she's on the poster and stuff, was something Ithaca. I don't even know what that is.
I think that's the movie she directed.
Oh, you're right. She's directed. Yeah, last movie was 2015. Like I said, I have 13 movies, and I shared it with our Patreon, and I will be reading at the end some of their picks. If you want to be involved in these rankings, every week when we do a ranking, I post in the Patreon group, and they get a chance to participate. So please check out the Patreon. And so I'll be sharing some of those, but let's get started. What do you have at 13?
Addicted to Love.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew when you mentioned that you had not seen this one, I was like, oh, I don't know if Rachel's going to be okay after it. I did not rewatch this one. I rewatched some movies because it had been way too long, but this one I refused to rewatch because I know I wouldn't change. I just think it's just not good. It's like, it's mean, and there's nothing wrong with mean movies, but it's just too mean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, these are terrible people.
Yeah.
Essentially, Meg Ryan, Matthew Broderick, they meet up because their exes have now hooked up and they seem very happy. And Meg Ryan's bent on revenge, and he just wants his old girlfriend back. They team up, move next door, use mirrors, bug their house. They're spying on these people. Not only that, they are physically hurting this man. They throw him downstairs, right? They give him like an allergic reaction, and he is like physically suffering. And of course, like all good movies, then they eventually fall in love and realize, oh, we're doing terrible things. Yeah. And we're supposed to applaud that realization that they were doing terrible things and have fallen in love.
Like, how dare this person want to date this other person without being subject to like saw traps? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Oh my God, it's like, crazy.
And it could be a thriller. It absolutely would just
absolutely is.
A few tiny changes.
I have a very vivid memory of Meg Ryan promoting this movie on Rosie O'Donnell's talk show. Where she's like, yeah, we used stuff. I can't remember the name of it. It was an old filming technique that they use with mirrors that they do in the movie to spy on them. And she's like, it's so great, this whole mirror technique or whatever. And my initial thought was like, this movie is bad, that she's talking about how they filmed with mirrors and used this old technique. And I was like, she's got to save something. I still went to watch it though and regretted it.
It did scream of the sort of late 90s kind of this level of filmmaking. It's no shock that this was produced by the Weinsteins. This is totally a type of that kind of Miramax
Yeah, it definitely is.
type of
Like if you
movie
want,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
it is correct. Like it is from the era. There was
Hmm.
similar movies like this, similar comedies
Yeah.
like this. It does feel very much of that time. It's just, it's not great. I
It's
don't
just
think any of these,
unpleasant and not
it's
funny.
unpleasant. Nobody is good in this movie. Nobody's, it's just not put together well. And this is the time too when she's like, they didn't know what to do with her in rom-coms, and she's
Yeah.
coming essentially to the end of her rom-com run,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think if you want basically the same story, but a million times better, I think The Wedding Singer is very similar as far as, the kind of the
Oh yeah.
dopey sad
It's a
sack
good
guy that gets
comparison. Yeah.
dumped by his, idealistic.
But they're not bad. I don't feel like they're bad people in The Wedding Singer.
No,
Or I
no. I
think,
mean,
yeah.
Glenn is obviously he's over the top,
Yeah.
but but yeah, much more palatable and actually funny. And so this is just not funny in the you
No,
just
it's
feel
not. I'm
bad
sure
for
there's,
their exes. You feel bad.
oh my God, that poor guy's in a body cast towards the end of that movie because of what they did to him.
Yeah, it's
There's got to be
crazy.
somebody who likes this movie out there. I would like to hear, out of
Hmm.
curiosity, and like a discussion of what they found likable in the movie. There
Hmm.
has to be somebody there, but I just,
So what do you
it's too
have?
unpleasant.
Yeah, it really is. What do you have at 12?
My mom's new
Same.
boyfriend, a movie I didn't even know existed until you told me about it, Rachel.
Me too. I'd
I
never
did
seen it.
not
This is
know.
a
And it's
new
from
watch.
2008. It's old too. It's from 2008.
The only reason it got the bump, uh, because they certainly Addicted Love is more slickly made and is sort of the more
Yes.
packaged thing, like using film techniques and things like that you talk about. This one is much more low budget and much more, but I do think that the cast is pretty good in this, and I think that
Yeah.
it has some moments. And I would like to see Antonio Banderas and Meg Ryan in a different rom com because I thought they had good chemistry together. I'd like to see
They
them,
did.
and I do think that the casting of Colin Hanks as her son is kind of inspired and funny.
It is. It is.
Obviously because he's Tom Hanks' son, so
Yeah.
there's sort of a meta about that. But everything else just doesn't work. There are so many Oedipal jokes in this movie, and they
And
they
here's
just
the
aren't
thing
that
too, like,
funny. It's more like, why are you trolling your mom like this
yeah,
way?
this is a
And
struggle for me to find to watch too. It's like, oh, it's on Tubi.
yeah, it's
Then
on
it's gone
Tubi.
from Tubi the minute I go watch it,
Oh,
Rachel. It's
really?
now on the Roku channel. Yeah. The minute I go watch it, I was like, where did it go?
I watched it on
I didn't think
Tubi.
I was gonna make it to watch it, but I did. And
Maybe they're
it
like,
dis
oh, one person watched this. We need to take it off
yeah, and
because
they
I
got rid
watched
of it
it.
on Tubi, and then I was like, I found it on Roku. I was like, whoo. But
That's funny.
it feels
Yeah,
like a TV movie
it
too.
does. It
Like it
does.
feels like something we would watch, like an HBO type of movie
Yeah.
or whatever.
No,
But
it does.
I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but then Meg Ryan came out in a fat suit, and I paused
Oh
the
yeah.
movie for a minute, and I was like, I'm in
You
for it.
texted me.
I was like, I know, I was like, oh my, what am I in for? What I don't understand is, of course, it's like she's just like a slob and worthless, and like she's depressed. That's how you, especially in that era, how you depict somebody who's in a worthless position in life. She's like a fat roly
Yeah,
poly
yeah.
rolling around and falling
Right.
down everywhere.
Yeah. It is a
And
short scene. Like
it is
it's
short, but I was like, I'm in for it. This dude was gone for 3 years. You tell me he never talked to his
yeah.
mother or anything like that, that he didn't know that she became hot
Yeah.
and that she lost
Ridiculous.
weight and that
Ridiculous.
she was a serial dater, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's like just super protective about if you want to see a much better movie with the same kind of idea is Mother with Albert Brooks and
Oh
Debbie
yeah.
Reynolds. That's
Yes.
hilarious.
Sort of the relationship. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is funny.
that's much better. Um this I feel like maybe with a couple more rewrites it might have had potential. It's
It
just
was
not.
it was boring. It was
Yeah,
very
it was
predictable.
boring.
Like
Yeah. and just
There's a
not
twist
funny
in the
enough for.
movie, and you're like, I knew that twist was coming.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
oh
of
yeah.
course that twist was coming.
um,
Did you know? I kind of did laugh at the end, the big moment where why everybody's just coming through and they're crashing through windows. And I thought, why is
oh
everybody
yeah.
flying through a window in this? I
Yeah.
did chuckle at that. This movie has its moments, but
Yeah. Well,
doesn't quite nail it, like you said.
I have to say, so the next 12, I think I would go fresh on all of them. They're all
Sure,
varying
yeah,
levels of enjoyable from going forward for me.
agree.
But what would you have at 12?
No, at 12 was my mom's new boyfriend. I think we're on
Oh,
11
right,
now.
11. What would you
Yeah.
have at 11?
Joe versus the volcano.
Okay, I have that at 9, so we're pretty close.
Yeah,
Did you
uh,
rewatch this? I haven't seen it
I
in a while.
rewatched it. I rewatched it because I didn't remember anything about it.
Mm,
And I think I think Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks works. It didn't
hmm.
completely work
It's
for
very
me
weird.
at this rewatch. And it's like weird, but like I get it. He's living in a soulless he just hates his job. He's got nothing to look forward to. And
Hmm.
so it's a very funny in that soulless moment. Oh, you've got there's so many people in this movie too, like cameos and all that stuff. But
Yeah,
Robert Stack, an actor. Most people know him from being the host of Unsolved Mysteries. When he's
right.
like, "You have a brain fog," that just like his deadpan delivery just made me laugh at that moment. There's a lot of funny moments.
Hmm.
I think this is more a Tom Hanks movie than anything else. Meg Ryan plays three
Mm,
different characters, but
yeah.
it's like what like, oh, I'm gonna go jump. The best part is like, but I love you, Joe, and he's like, I love you too, but the timing's terrible, and he just walks off to go into that volcano, and that made me laugh. So
Yeah.
there are very charming moments in this movie, but maybe it's all. I couldn't believe it was 1990. I thought this movie was like an 80s movie. I don't know if
Mm.
everything about it has aged well,
Well,
but the
everything like with the
idea
natives and stuff is pretty cringe.
it is that was I was like, oh, but it's from an era, so like
Yeah.
I understand that.
Hmm.
And that's another thing too. After everything goes down, they're sitting on those suitcases like, oh, the volcano blew up. I love you. They didn't even care. Spoilers alert, a whole civilization died. And it's just shrug your
Right.
shoulders.
Well,
Shrug your shoulders. We're alive.
my number 11 is more just because it's really sad. It's not, it's a good movie. But I have City of Angels at 11 just because I think of all of these 11, it's the last one I would want to watch because
Rachel, it's
it's
so
so
funny.
sad.
That's my number 9. You've got
Okay.
it reversed. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've got it reversed.
it's a good movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just sad. It's a sad
It's
story.
yeah, City Range is a bummer. It's like it's also stupid. If I could go that far, it's a bummer, but it's also stupid. It's like, he's essentially the angel of death. He's kind of like Andrew in Touched by an Angel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When he appears to
Yeah.
people, he doesn't understand humans, and he just becomes obsessed with Meg Ryan's character.
Yeah.
And she consents him and talk to him, and they have a connection. And he's like, I'm going to jump from a skyscraper, or whatever he jumps from, and I'm going to become human. And of course, the minute he becomes human, that something bad was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't like you watch this, and I couldn't.
I haven't watched this one in a long time. I was
I
gonna
do.
try, but I just ran out of time.
I know. I had a vivid memory of just watching this with my friend in the theater, and she's riding that bike when that big moment. There's going to be some spoilers, people. I'm sorry, but she does die the minute he becomes human. I think the trailer kind of spoils it too. The minute she
Yeah. Oh
becomes
yeah.
human, they hook up, and immediately she dies afterwards, so he can live a sad existence for a while without her.
I mean, I
And
remember this movie more for the Goo Goo Dolls songs.
oh yeah.
Than I
Oh, that
do
was
for
all over the place. That Cuckoo was great. That was my
that
song
was a
back in
good
the day,
song.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing too is that like she's riding a bike with her eyes closed and her arms stretched out. I was like, yeah, you're gonna die that way, not paying attention in the street. I'll never forget when that happened. People were like, oh, in the theater, and I was like, stupid. I was like, what you think was gonna happen? I had gas. People were like, What did she
But
say?
she
I have a
lived.
habit
She
sometimes.
truly lived.
I sometimes have a habit of like just saying things out loud, not intentionally, it just comes out. Like in the Notebook, if
Oh
and this
no, you're that
this
person?
is a no, I'm
Sorry.
not that person. In the Notebook, I love the Notebook, and I was seeing it with a former friend of mine. But the part where they're getting it on, and like in the whole house, or they're
Oh
about
yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah.
getting close, and he pulls
Right.
that blanket, and I literally said out loud, I didn't even realize it. I was like, "Ew, that blanket has dust all over it. You can't do that." And everybody started to laugh around me.
You're
But
like, ruin the
on
moment.
occasion, yeah, but everybody started laughing, and I was like, on occasion, I do that. Like I laugh in horror movies, and sometimes it bothers people. I don't mean to do that. I'm sorry. That's why I go during the day by myself.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't
Uh,
mean to do it, but it comes out of me. I'm sorry. I know I'm that person.
yeah.
Not all the time, but but this movie, I was like, "Ugh, yeah, of course she died. Look what she was doing." And there was people gasping. My friend gave me the evil
Yeah.
eye. She goes, "It's a touching moment." I was like,
Well, I mean, this is right when
but
all of these like really sappy, you had
yeah,
like
this emo
Titanic
type
came
of,
out at the same time, things
yeah.
like that, really like
And
melodramatic
Nicolas Cage is very emo-ish in this
tragedies.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very
Well,
emo-ish in it, you know.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcasts, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
you have at 10.
My number 10 is the new one, What Happens Later.
Okay, I have it at 8.
Ooh.
So I have a 10. A 10.
Thoughts.
A 10, I have When a Man Loves a Woman. Again, not because it's bad, just because it's
Rachel.
intense.
Rachel, that's my number 8. What did we do here?
And it was interesting because I found this old review from Roger Ebert where he was in recovery and how much this movie meant to him and how authentic he thought it was and real and so I can't speak to that because I've never experienced that. But it is a tough watch. Man, she is so unlikable in this movie. And
I actually agree with him too when he said it's a good movie until the end with the speeches, because that is the one part, and I agreed with that. I did not get a chance to rewatch this movie, but I do remember that is the one part that feels very Hollywood-ish, that they have to give these grand speeches of what they learned and how they bettered themselves, and that feels a little inauthentic to everything that's happening else in the movie.
Yeah,
but it's still good. It's also a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, but I
It's
think it is
hopeful too.
pretty
It has a
pretty
hopeful
well
ending.
pretty well acted. And I mean, this is a great cast. Philip Seymour Hoffman's in this, Lauren Tom, Mae
Oh, there's
Whitman,
like so
Ellen
many people in
Burstyn.
there.
Like
Yeah.
a great cast and so and especially I feel like it's less common that you see the woman being the alcoholic in movies like this and having the woman being the one that's kind of the toxic member of the family. Typically it's the man.
You know, yeah, we don't see the man struggle. It is so funny though. When she goes to this, I remember too. It's a little eye rolly, but she goes into rehab. He has to struggle with his job and take care of his children. And he's like, "How do I do this by myself?" And I was like, "Your wife's been doing that You know, even before she had
Yeah.
a drinking problem, like doing the same thing you're doing, and you can't
Right.
handle it. But also, it is refreshing to see like him taking a step back, not knowing his role in the relationship anymore, feeling also left out once she does leave recovery and she's determined to rebuild that relationship with her kids and to be a better person. He doesn't know how to fit into that relationship unless
Yeah.
she was
It,
the messed up one,
yeah.
you
It
know, and
kind
he
of,
doesn't know how to handle that either.
they tried, and then just like that this last season to kind of have a moment with that with Harry
Yeah.
and Charlotte. Charlotte starts working again, and the family's kind of struggling, and Harry starts to. She has a moment where he's like complaining. She's like, "No,
Yeah.
you're doing the bare minimum here to
Right.
you prom." And it was a pretty good moment for her character in a very flawed show. But yeah, you typically just don't see movies where like I said, the mother, the female in the relationship, the wife is sort of the toxic one,
Yeah.
the challenging one. So it's in a good movie. I just would, if I would rather watch any of the ones above because of my
Exactly.
taste and who
Same.
I am.
Same.
So
Yeah.
then, yeah, Joe versus the Volcano. I haven't seen that one in a long time, but I remember thinking it was pretty funny.
Wait, what number that one is?
For
Okay,
9, I
so
have that in 9.
for 9. Okay.
Yeah, so we had
And
that
my 9
switched.
was City of Angels. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, let's talk about what happens later. I have it at 8. You have it at 10.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, I would go fresh on this movie. When I log my review, I do think overall it's a pleasant experience, and overall I enjoyed it. You can really tell that it is based on a play, that it's a play
Yes.
adapted. It because there are certain points that feel really sweet and charming, and you know that chemistry between the two of them is really good. There's moments that feel very authentic and sincere, and then there's other parts that feel extremely phony and extremely
Yes.
like this person would not say this at this time. It doesn't make any sense
Right.
for the character. And I don't know if you felt this way at all, but there was times I was like, I think, is there going to be a twist at the end? And I thought, are they going to be like in a way station or have died or something?
Rachel, that was my thought too.
Especially because she was like
I
wearing
thought,
all white for sections,
yes,
and
that
then
was my exact
she'd put
thought
on a coat
too.
and stuff. But and there was time he was mostly he had
Yeah.
a white shirt, and so it was
Yeah.
like, and there the only other character in the movie is an overhead voice, which was kind of godlike, was the PA, kind of voice.
That's exactly. I was like, are they dead? I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought because there's a lot of strange mystical things, not really super
There's some
mystical,
surreal
but
moments with,
happening, yeah, in the airport where the airport is talking to him like the overhead voice. And I thought, I was like, what if they're not quite heaven, but this is
Mhm.
they have to make peace with each other
Yeah,
before they move on.
that's what I thought
That might have
too.
been a better movie for me if
I
they
think,
were. I'm not going to give up the notion that they might be dead. I don't know. It doesn't
yeah.
seem like that towards the end, but
Well,
I did for a
especially,
hot moment think that.
yeah, especially once they clear out the entire airport. There's not security, there's
Exactly.
nobody in this airport. And that, and the movie was pretty cheaply made. I mean, especially whenever they would go to like a stock footage shot of this, of like the transitions were really poor, the editing was really
Yeah.
bad, and it I don't think this must not have had like any budget at all.
No, and it's
um
one location. It is simply just one
yeah,
location.
and it felt like a airport from like some small city or something. I guess they had gotten uh
We're not, yeah, they were
detoured.
both
They got
detoured. We
detoured
don't
to
know where
this,
they were at.
because even like
You know, which,
the type of departures arrivals screen, that was very
right.
old school, and
Very
then they would
old
have
school.
little surrealist touches, like the signs would be like rom-com, and generic rom-com,
Exactly.
or different things, and so that's why I just thought, there's gonna be a twist or something, or maybe it's a
Exactly. Well, I didn't
dream
know
or
if
that
I
she's
was the only
having,
one who
or
got that vibe. I was like, did anybody else get this vibe? because I went in, it was a little rough to start for me.
Mhm.
I would go with you too, that I think it's worth a watch and to
Mhm.
go see it. Obviously she saw something in this where she co-wrote it, the screenplay,
Yeah,
and she
adapted it.
directed it and she starred in it. And so she really, yes, she adapted it. She really saw something in this. But once they start talking about like, oh, we're old and young people, we don't understand that. And I was like, oh, this isn't going to be a whole movie like that. Even though
Yeah.
last night I was talking to my best friend about how we didn't understand anything this person who was in her 20s was saying to us, because we're like, we don't understand that terminology. What does she mean? So I lived that moment in that movie.
Yeah.
But it was a little too complaining about stuff, and I was like, oh, is this going to be the whole movie? It does get better as
Mhm.
it goes on, but it is a little too long.
Yeah.
Because there were several moments in this movie where it felt like it was done. Like this is a natural ending point,
Mhm.
and then it just kept on going,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah,
kept
like when
on
he gets
going.
on the plane, that would have been like a
Why did we
good
need that? Why
good
did we need
way.
that scene of them looking at each other and not remembering the number, and then the stupid heart at the end from the clouds? Like that
Mhm.
was so cheesy. I didn't
Yeah.
think that was a great way to end it.
Well,
Like
it's
them parting at the airport should have just been,
yeah. I
not to
mean,
be
it's
spoiled,
interesting
I'm
what you're
sorry, but
saying about them complaining a lot about, the new generation or whatever, because
yeah,
then the whole rest of the movie was sort of about them
exactly.
dissecting
About how they
their
were. Yeah,
20 something experience, which
yeah.
it had some
Hashing out the
trauma and
past. Yeah.
yeah.
There was
But
a lot to go down, and I
it
kind of
really was.
felt like if I was those characters, I'd have been David Duchovny. I would have been like, I think I would have
Oh,
left the Meg Ryan as well, like in that moment.
yeah.
Not to be nothing, but just like if I was to go into like a personality ride,
Hmm. I did
and
think it was kind of, in some ways I felt like she was sort of the manic pixie dream girl grown up. Like what
yes,
does the
very
manic
much
pixie
so.
what does the manic pixie dream girl look at 50? And
Right.
it was pretty, I think this is what she looked like. There you go.
She would
And
absolutely look that way. Yeah, it's true. That
yeah.
is a great example of that. Yeah.
And
But yeah, so
there were enough authentic moments between them, enough chemistry that again, I would give it a mild
I,
recommendation.
I would too. I would say see it for them because I do think they are both good. That they
Yeah.
both give. Funny thing is that okay, I'm old too. I'm 43. I'm gonna be 44 in a couple of months. Like I'm reaching there too. I
Hmm.
just I was like, okay, we've seen David Duchovny constantly. He's always been in it, and I was like,
Yeah.
when did everybody get old? And I'm like, when did I get old? I kind of felt that for a minute when they're talking about things of a certain age where they can, where we can relate a little bit to it because we're not that age, but close in that age
Hmm.
bracket. And I was like,
Yeah.
when did we get old? That was the question I had too. Like, you're right. When did we
Yeah.
get to this point when
That's
they're talking
true.
about when they were young and stuff like that?
Because I remember when I used to watch The Nanny and she would say, I'm 29 forever, and I'd be like, oh, that's so
Yeah.
lame. But like the thing, I kind of get it now because I don't feel like different than when I was
No, me
29.
neither.
I
No.
basically feel the same. Like I hopefully I've like matured or, a little bit, I guess,
Yeah.
or grown some from 29. But for the most part, I'm still the same person, same personality,
Yeah.
same. And so I kind of get that a feeling of like, I
Yeah.
think when you're young, you think, oh, it's gonna be really different, but it's really not.
Right. But it's
No.
really not too. I kind of felt that, and I was like, yeah. But I
Hmm.
would recommend it for them. Yes, just it's not perfect. There's
Hmm.
some issues with it, but I am still debating whether or not they are alive. I mean,
I'm glad that you
obviously,
felt that too, because I was just like,
because I was like, when I went in, Rachel, I was gonna go to my local independent theater, but
mhm.
they ended up playing it at the AMC, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's playing at the AMC, and I have AMC stubs,
Yeah.
so I went right in. So it was the smallest theater in the
Hmm.
complex,
Yeah.
and I was the only one in there, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna stretch out
There was
here.
actually quite a few
Yeah.
people in my theater, surprisingly.
Like I guess because I went around like 5 o'clock, and I was the
Mm,
only one at the 5 o'clock
mm,
showing.
yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna eat my pretzel, my crappy pretzel bites, and I'm gonna enjoy myself here.
But I also
and
think
I
you
kind
might
of love
be.
the experience.
Yeah, I think you
But
might
I
be right
don't know
too that
because
I
at
might
the
have liked it
yeah,
better as an after, because one of my favorite movies ever is called Afterlife. It's a Japanese
right.
film by
Yeah,
Korida, and about this way station where everybody has to pick a memory.
yeah.
So I love movies like, I also love Defending Your Life, another Albert Brooks, hilarious, absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful movie.
Especially because everything they said to each other felt like they needed to get this off this chest. They
Mhm,
needed to confess. They needed to
mhm,
really say how they felt. But the movie does kind of, I think the magic is supposed to be, because attributed to it being a leap day. Because
oh
she
yeah, I
mentions
forgot
a
about
lot
that.
that it's leap
Mhm,
day. And he was like, is that, and she goes, strange things happen, the universe pulls us together or whatever on a leap day. And I
mhm,
was like, I don't know if I buy that. But because they're talking about, like, he's talking about his daughter and she's got something to do. And it ends like, it's like, we are going to accomplish and do those things that we talked about. And if they were really dead, that would kind of be a little crappy that they never got to do what they were setting out to do.
mhm.
But I think the movie would have worked so much better if they were dead. Like, they needed to do
Yeah,
this so they could move on.
right.
Um,
Yeah, I
so
can
I'm just
see
gonna
that.
think that
Yeah.
it's that. I'm gonna think it's just that. I don't know. I really don't know because I think maybe that might be an ambiguous part. Maybe it works
Uh-huh.
better in the
I wonder,
play.
yeah, I wonder what
I'm
the,
not
if anyone's
sure.
seen the play, let us know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I love art, and I just love that whole concept, the um afterlife and themes of that, and
Yeah,
Coco, just
totally.
all those kind of movies I really like.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the new Gift Wrapped Romance Sweet Clean series, available now wherever you purchase books. Looking for some cheerful escapism this holiday season? Snuggle up with a cup of hot cocoa and lose yourself in 5 festive tales of romance with the new book series, Gift Wrapped Romance. These 5 funny and feel-good books have all the jolly hallmarks of perfect holiday reading: twinkling lights, mistletoe kisses, and plenty of Christmas cheer. Swoon over your new book boyfriends as they find love in the most magical season of all. Find the books wherever you do your book shopping this holiday season, or use the affiliate link in the description below. All right, well, I have to say, for the next 7 are all movies I genuinely love, for me.
Yeah.
So what do you have at 7?
So at 7, I have IQ.
Okay, yeah.
I rewatched this. I had no memory of it. I know I had seen it. I couldn't remember it was a period piece.
It's so
I couldn't remember
underrated, I
anything, but
think.
it is, and I was like, I think I enjoyed it much more of this time than I did originally. But I will say, because Meg is the niece of Einstein,
Yeah.
and the best part of this movie was Einstein and his scientist
Oh,
buddies
love them. Yeah.
interfering in the relationship. And I had forgotten Stephen Fry was in this movie, and he's just so good as oh no, he experiments on Ryan, and that poor guy that he's experimenting screaming in the room. Oh no, it's just a man screaming. Ignore
Yeah, I
it.
forgot he was
Because he's so
her
dry. His humor is so dry, and
Yeah, it's
he's
her
so like,
fiance. It's really
yeah,
funny.
the crisp British man, but like, and they're trying to get this mechanic, like, oh, she wants to be with a genius. And when they're like, when he's taking that test, they're coughing, they're doing all type of things to give him the answers to the test. And I think that the side characters are so much more enjoyable than them two together for me. Like, I could really care about less about their chemistry. And watching this movie and Meg Ryan, I was like, yes, this was the decade that she had that unfortunate haircut. Which I still feel to this day, with a short, choppy, unkempt. It was in.
Fit her
It was
character,
in.
though.
Yeah, it was not for the 50s when it was supposed to be the 50s, but
I guess, but
it was
she's
very
supposed
much.
to
Yeah,
be kind of
yeah,
this
it
sort
was
of.
very much. It was a haircut that was in during that time, but
Yeah.
I always found it unfortunate. I still find it unfortunate today. She's a beautiful woman. She looks good regardless, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's a charm in this, and I think this might be forgotten.
Yeah,
Also,
I
this
agree.
came out in a time too when her rom-coms were getting kind of lesser and lesser, and so it's lost in a shuffle because she did quite a few romantic type of movies back to back.
Yeah. Well,
So it
my
kinda
number
gets lost.
7, I have French Kiss at 7. I really love this movie. I mean, like I said, these
I have
7
French Kiss at
are very
6.
strong.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason is because Kevin Kline's character is a complete caricature and complete silly,
Oh my
but I
gosh, that
love it.
accent.
The
Oh,
accent,
that accent.
but I love it. I
Very,
love this movie. I mean, she's the jilted
yeah.
woman trying to get back at her ex, but I mean, as opposed to Addicted to Love,
It's a
this one,
very,
it really
yeah.
works and is
Oh, but
funny.
he
And
deserved it though. In other sense, he didn't
Yeah.
really get as much of a comeuppance as he should have had. Man, I haven't seen this movie. I did not get to rewatch this movie, so it's been a bit. And
Mhm.
this movie is my number 6.
Yeah.
But I do
Love
remember
it.
he dumped her via phone because
Oh,
she didn't
yeah.
want to go to France with him because she's like, I don't like to fly
Yeah,
and
and she
French,
was
and you
so
know,
close to
basically,
his
oh, can you believe
family.
these French people? Yeah. And then
Yeah,
he
she's
calls
like
her up and dumps her.
she's really close to his family, and so they're
Yeah.
devastated with her, and she's just so upset and crying because she hasn't wanted
Yeah.
to go to France because she doesn't want to get on the plane. And then they have
Yeah.
such a great meet cute where he distracts her.
But
And
that accent that he does throughout that whole
yeah,
entire movie.
well, and that's why it's
What
at
a
7.
con man. I just want to buy a vineyard, right? Like that was
Yeah,
his goal. He wanted his vineyard, yeah.
but I love it. I absolutely love this movie, even though it's a 7.
Does because I didn't get a chance to rewatch it. I wonder if it still holds up. Like
I
to
watched it
today.
not
Like,
too long ago. And yeah, I still love it. I mean, yeah, it's a
yeah.
totally foppish kind of ridiculous, but to me, this movie
I mean
has has a screwball comedy element. You know,
right.
it feels
And
like
it's a
something that could
very
have been from the 50s.
it's a very familiar, and people love these type of romantic comedies where somebody fakes a relationship or wants to get their ex back and that they fall in love with a new person.
Yeah.
That is like almost every romantic comedy,
I tell you,
so but it works, yeah.
yeah, I tell you, when we do the best rom-coms of the 90s, we're gonna have to do maybe we'll have to do two per actor rule for that one, because I mean, I would have a ton of these in there as my favorite
Yeah.
rom-coms for the 90s.
You know, when I was looking over the list, I think I'm gonna
The
struggle with the
queen.
80s. There's just too many. There's too many
Yeah,
in the
there's a lot
80s
of,
and
but
90s.
just so many from of the good ones in the 90s were with her.
90s were,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
What I'm saying. We'll have to limit it. But anyway, so you have French Kiss at 6. I have Kate and Leopold at 6. Also, I would say underrated. I think what the strongest part about this is the idea of a of an overworked, stressed out modern woman getting treated
Yeah.
like a lady. And how much that means to her. My favorite scene in the movie, I love this scene, is one of my favorites of rom-coms, is when he makes her the toast with the strawberries.
Oh, yeah.
And she's just like overcome. She's like, I can't believe you made this
Yeah.
for me. Because
I
when
know.
and I connect with that so much because you do too. But like as a single person, nobody does things for you, hardly at all. And so
Exactly.
like
That is
and,
true.
and not just nobody does things for you, but nobody, like, you certainly have, like, obviously, you know, I've help from different people in my life, but like nobody really dotes on me, you know, and
And
takes
because
that
he's
extra to make, like, cut the
right.
strawberries and make everything beautiful and
Yeah.
everything. And in the way that she just like gets kind of emotional. She's like, I can't believe you made this for me. I love that scene in
Right.
this so
And
much.
he's old because he comes from, is old fashioned, but he comes from the
Yeah.
past, so he's still kind of kinder and gentler. Not always,
Yeah.
but like more of a sort of old fashioned gentleman. And she's just not used to that in
Mhm.
like in like that time
Being
that she's
treated,
at.
that's
It's
what I'm
like, what
saying. I
happened?
think the best dynamic of
Yeah.
this is that dynamic of the overworked woman being treated
So
like a lady, and
absolutely.
that really works. And you know, Hugh Jackman is really charming.
So great in the role, yeah.
I think this was
Now
like
I
one of his
can't
first roles in America, or certainly one of the
after
first
the
times I
X-Men,
saw him.
yeah. Well, no, he did. He went to Broadway first. He was doing Beauty and the Beast or Carousel or one of them when he was caught as X-Men. He had done X-Men already.
Okay,
That was his
yeah,
first, I think, American movie. And then he followed up with this one, and he did a couple of rom-coms. Now I can't
yeah. Just the year
remember.
before had done.
Yeah, I can't
Had done.
remember because I didn't rewatch this one, but if anybody has the DVD or can find a DVD, they have the director's cut as well.
I have to
And I
watch
can't
that.
remember if it's in the theatrical version, because Liev Schreiber is the ex-boyfriend of Meg Ryan, and
Mhm.
he travels in time. Does he say that I found my great-great-grandfather, or he just says I traveled back in time to find the guy who invented the elevator? That I
Um,
don't know if I'm conflicting that, because it gets a little weird in
I
the
think it was the grandpa.
okay, because I couldn't remember, because it does get a little weird when you watch the director's cut, because it starts off, it kind of spoils the movie how it starts off, but it works because it starts off in the past, like, completely. And
Yeah.
you see some of the stuff that happens at the end of the movie in the beginning. But it gets a little weird when you find out all the family dynamics and how everybody's
Yeah.
related, and then you realize, ew, everybody dated everybody else, but it doesn't really matter because she hasn't gone back in time yet, so it's not,
Yeah. I mean, I could
it's
care
like
less about all the plot. And this, all I was really focusing
right,
on was how it impacted this woman to be treated like a
right.
lady.
But it's a
And
fun time travel movie too.
yeah, yeah.
It's about, because what we usually get, whether it's a man or woman, but it's usually the woman. They travel back into the to the past from the future. We rarely get to see people from the past travel into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
obviously it's
Yeah.
meant to happen so they can meet up,
Yeah.
it's
And
already,
this kind of your
because
fish out of water situation,
right,
that
exactly,
you
because
see.
in the present, everything that happened between them in the past has already happened,
Yeah.
so they needed to meet. This is why he traveled,
And you see it in movies
why
like
this all happened.
Encino Man or
Yeah,
Thor, the first Thor movie, stuff like that,
yeah.
or and
They very
it's fun.
rarely come to the future, and I kind of like that aspect. I do
Yeah.
I do enjoy time travel movies. I like it when they go into the past, but it
I
is
like,
unique when they go into the future.
yeah, it's kind of similar to that one with Ryan Pavey, Timeless Christmas, whatever.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's kind
But
of the
at
same
least Hugh
idea.
Jackman was like, "What is this?
Right. That's
What's
true.
going on here?" Ryan
Right.
Pavey was very cool about technology and everything.
Yeah.
But the Hugh Jackman, when the cops like, "You got to pick up, your dog droppings," and he goes, "Excuse me, why would I ever do that?"
Yeah.
Like, in reality, I mean, they would never do that. I mean, oh man, just to
Yeah.
think back then, just walking in dirt and all that stuff. But
Well,
it's so funny, like the way he reacts to it.
my number 5 is Where I Have IQ. I love this movie. I maybe the chemistry isn't like sizzling, but I think that Tim Robbins is really charming as this sort of
Oh yeah,
down, sort of this smart, shy
dopey.
mechanic who
Yeah.
uh
Oh,
who
there's so many people in
falls
this
for
movie too.
her.
Tony Shalhoub too,
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
one of the mechanics, and
And
all the side
I love
characters. All the supporting
Einstein.
cast is great.
I love Einstein,
Oh
and
yeah,
his friends are hilarious, and so many great
it's
scenes,
probably so
like
much more. Yeah, well,
when
it's
they're trying to help him
played
through the
Einstein.
test, and
Yeah.
all of that is really
Oh yeah, that's
fun.
so funny.
The
Yeah. Oh, it's
Wahoo.
let's
I really love it. I think it's very underappreciated for a rom-com,
Walter
and
Matthau plays it.
yeah, got Walter
Einstein.
Matthau.
A lot more likable probably than Einstein was in real life.
Yeah.
But it's so charming,
Very, 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 very charming. Let's see. So what did you have at 5?
Oh, at 5 I have Anastasia.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's we'll talk about that coming up.
So yeah.
Okay, so at 4 is where I have Sleepless in Seattle.
Okay. I have Sleepless in Seattle higher. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the challenge of this movie is that you have a romance where the couple is never together. And so
Right.
that's a little bit challenging, but do you think the acting is excellent, and I think the writing is excellent, and I think it is one of the best movies about talking about grief, and when he talks about breathing in, breathing out, and I would think about how I had it really great, and then the next day I would breathe in and breathe out, and so good. And there is more humor than I remember. I rewatched this recently for AFI Passions that I'm doing for the patrons. And so I did a review, and there's quite a bit of humor between like Bill Pullman's character, whose like main flaw is that he has allergies.
Man, he is so chill with everything. Even in the end, like, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
go on. And I was like, he's too calm and cool. There's so many
Like,
people in this movie too.
it's just funny
Yeah.
because like he's not the wrong guy. He just
No.
well, and I do love the way he says like marriage is hard enough without starting it with such low expectations. So that was a good moment
Right.
for that character. Nora Ephron is just such a great writer, was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I did love in What Happens Later at the end for Nora.
Oh, that she gives it to
That
Nora.
was
Yeah.
very sweet.
That was a touching
But
tribute.
yeah, I mean, there's some really great lines like when he talks about have you seen Fatal Attraction? That's really good. It rains 9 months out of the year in Seattle. I know. And I like Rosie O'Donnell in this.
Yeah,
It is
she's fun.
a real love letter to love in the movies and An Affair to
Oh,
Remember.
yes, the way that they quote,
Yeah.
the way that, and then that all the women get choked up talking
Yeah.
about Affair to
You're
Remember.
standing
And
up
I was
there.
like, we do not get choked up talking about the Affair to Remember. Then I had a flashback of like, yes, I do get choked up when I talk to Affair to Remember. I was like, I do.
Yeah,
Now
I'm just waiting
now
for
I
it.
feel this movie
All alone.
made me want to watch all the Affairs to Remember. Rewatch them all.
Yeah. So and it has a great soundtrack, really good. So it got number 4. And so what do you have at 3?
My number 4 was Kate Leopold, and my number 3 is You've Got Mail.
Oh, number 4 was Kate and Leopold? I thought you said it was Anastasia.
Yeah, for me it was Kate Leopold. Yeah.
Oh wait,
My
Anastasia's
number
5.
4 was Kate. Yeah, Anastasia was 5.
Okay.
Kate Leopold for me is 4,
Mm,
and my number 3 is My number 3 is You've Got Mail.
yeah, yeah,
Again, Nora Ephron.
yeah.
It's a remake of The Shop Around the Corner, which
Mhm.
that movie was made twice before, I believe, right? With Shop Around the Corner and then In the Good Old Summertime.
Which, speaking of the
And
AFI Passions Project, this is going to air on tomorrow. This is going to air on Monday. The upcoming Sunday is Shop Around the Corner for AFI Passions. So
ooh,
you want every Sunday I do the AFI 100 list, 100 passions list, 100 films, 100 passions list. I every Sunday I review one of them, post a review just for the patrons. And so anyway, this next one is going to be Shop Around the Corner, which is the original based on the Perfumery play. And this is just a story that just works. And we've talked about it many times before, but just the idea of falling in love with somebody over their words. That is a romantic concept. And this story just works.
And the way that they've updated it
Yeah.
I think this movie came out in 98, right? Late 90s. The way they've updated to the modern time that it was made. Yeah, with the emails and stuff was very good, and they kept the whole bookstore element of it, and and when he finds out that it's her, he's like, oh no, because they don't get along, because she runs a small bookstore and he's coming in with a bigger bookstore that's gonna make her lose business. And
this script is so quotable.
Good.
It has such a great cast. Obviously, Meg and Tom, legendary.
Yeah.
But you have Parker Posey as this. Patricia makes coffee nervous. I mean, I love that. And when I get off this elevator, I want to have my eyes lasered.
I know, like they really had some interesting partners.
And then Greg Kinnear with the thank you. I even like little things like Sarah Ramirez as the check cashier with the this is a credit card machine. Zip.
I do love it too.
I love
when he's in her books. Yeah, when he's in a bookstore and she's like, "Yeah, is this your daughter?" And he goes, "No, it's my aunt," or something like that, because it's his grandfather.
We are an American family.
Yeah, and it's like his grandfather got remarried and had another kid, and he's like, "No, she's my aunt," and I laughed at that so hard because it was really funny.
Well, and I love Dabney Coleman as his dad. Don't romanticize that. They're called readers, Dad. I could quote this movie all day. It would be very annoying,
it's great.
but they're called readers. There's just so many funny lines. I love Dave Chappelle as his friend. What if he's like the mice in Cinderella? I can't take that. He's just keeping it real.
Fun. Like they have such a great supporting cast in this movie. It's like
Gene Stapleton.
That happens with all of Nora Ephron movies, though. It's an amazing cast that they pull together.
I love Gene Stapleton in this. That he ran Spain. And Greg Kinnear. It's not like he was an anarchist or a liberal. He was a fascist dictator. They buy leather jackets for way more than they're worth, but they don't fall in love with fascist dictators. I just like I said,
so mean
I could
to
just
Tom Hanks too. Yeah. And she's so mean to Tom Hanks. And he like once and then he just tries to change her mind, like not wooing her in earnest, but like when he figures out it's her and he's like, I'm gonna go for it, you know, like and then trying to change her mind about who he is and stuff. It's really sweet.
The number of people who think it looks like Clark Gable. The number of people who thinks he looks like a Clark bar.
Oh man.
I love this movie. It is one of my all-time faves. And I love the script. And I think it's really funny. And I think it also has something in there to say about how sometimes we define ourselves by things that don't actually define us. And it's not until we get, so she thinks that this job in this store is her entire life. And
because it was her mother's.
Yeah. And I love the scene when he brings her flowers and she's sick. And everything with the Godfather is hilarious. What is it with men in the Godfather? The Godfather's the I Ching. I love it. I love it so much. But for me, I have When Harry Met Sally at 3. And I mean, another Nora Ephron, absolutely brilliant script. And I mean, pretty much my whole entire 30s, the whole scene of, and I'm going to be 40 in 8 years, but it's there.
It's a classic friends to lovers.
Yes.
And road trip. So it's like a moment. It's also, it's also a movie where like you see people at certain points in their lives because they jump forward to different points of their life when they don't see each other all them years. So it's like so many movies into one, but it makes it all work. And they're so good to each other. And,
this is singing Surrey with a fringe on top when Ira was.
I love too
you can tell that Billy Crystal ad-libbed a lot in this, especially like the scenes when they're talking on the phone about like Malamars and about Casablanca and just stuff like that. Like it'd be interesting to know how much of it was, but you can feel it just in his sort of stand-up comic bones.
I do love it when they decide to be friends, because the whole discussion that they have is, can men and women be friends? And I love that they decide to hook each other up with their best friends, and their best friends don't care anything about them and then fall in love with each other.
I love Bruno Kirby and Carrie Fisher in this film. They're so good. I will never want that wagon wheel table.
I also love like the couples talking about their true stories, because Nora Ephron interviewed so many people about their love stories, and then she got actors to tell them. And you saw those interstitials where they're talking about how they got together and their love stories. I think that just adds to the movie and to the charm of it, and it's sort of a build up to when it's Harry and Harry and Sally's turn.
Yeah. So. And I wouldn't be surprised if the whole baby fish mouth, I wouldn't be surprised if that was ad-lib. That seems like something
that has to be, I think.
So funny.
See, I loved when Billy Crystal was I do like when he was on and he was good in these type of movies. He's just so great.
And he didn't do that many rom-coms. Well, like Forget Paris and this.
He should have done more because he works though. He works. I mean, this worked, and
Yeah, no,
Store
the ending is so
so
classic. When you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. Great.
exactly. It's so
Perfect.
great.
And if you want more analysis of When Harry Met Sally, I did every year we do the Winterfest preview and then also talk about a New Year's movie with Greg McBride.
Oh yes,
And
'cause, yeah,
so I really do look forward to it every year.
yeah,
And one year we did When Harry Met Sally. So we did a full deep dive analysis of it.
totally, yeah. Because
Yeah.
so much of it takes place on New
Year's.
Year's.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Okay, so what do you have at 2?
I have 2 at Sleepless in Seattle, and I gotta say, I rewatched this movie.
Yeah.
Because when I was young, I went. Listen, I know, I crammed it in. When this movie, I remember vividly when this movie came out. I was probably 13. I remember how everybody loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember back in the day, Rachel, when you had to wait a year plus to like rent it on VHS for these movies you missed.
Oh yeah.
To go to the video store and rent it. You had to wait so long for these movies to come out or for them to air on TV if you missed it in the theater. And now everything is so instant. You get like 20 days later, it's on VOD. But this was a movie that I did enjoy, that I liked, but I was never as in love with it as everybody else. I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And I said, I better rewatch this one because I'm older. I haven't seen it in like eons, more than a decade. I haven't seen this movie. I rewatched it and I was like, what was I thinking? I was like, this movie is amazing. I loved it. I appreciated it so much more. I think it is because I'm older. And I think I first watched this movie when I was a teenager. I was on TV. I didn't appreciate what it was trying to tell me or what the movie was trying to say. And I just watched it and I just fell in love with it and saw it with some new eyes. And I was like, this is why sometimes we have to revisit some of these movies.
Yeah.
Because we can change.
Sure.
Just with age, just with what happens in our life, we see it with new eyes. And I loved it. There's so many people in here. David Hyde Pierce pops up. I'd forgotten all these people that were in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's a great story about grief and moving on between a father and son. But too, and Bill Pullman has to be the best like boyfriend, even ex to the end, like, oh, all right, go on. Go find your happy ever after. I'm cool. And I'm like, wow. And Rosie O'Donnell is so funny too. And she's like, you're a mess. And all this, I just found, everything works in this movie perfectly. And it is surprising that this romance works with them never having any screen time till the end.
Yeah.
And it works,
it's
and
true.
you're rooting for these guys
Yeah.
because she's got a fiance and she is starting to question, do I want to live my life with him? And he's starting to date as well. And the kid doesn't like her. And it's so funny. And so to make you want to root for this couple who never speak to each other, who barely have any screen time with each other is just, it's a masterclass. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's absolutely excellent. I really enjoyed watching it recently and just those scenes when she's just peeling the apple listening to him.
Oh yeah. It's like so great. Like all those little touches. Like I'm so glad I rewatched this and I went back to it to just appreciate it.
Well, my number 2 is Anastasia. You know me, I'm an animation girl. I love animation. And I think Anastasia is is up there with Tangled as probably the finest romantic comedy ever done in animation.
Right.
I think I would probably be battling it out, but as far as real romantic comedies, I would say Anastasia, I would say Tangled, and I would say Aladdin. I think those are probably the three
Yeah.
for me. But this one, I love Dimitri and Anya. I think they have wonderful, like, if animated characters can have chemistry, I think they totally do. And I love the animation, even in maybe scenes that some think are a little cringy, like Dark of the Night. I love the animation in that scene, and it's definitely a Be Prepared knockoff, but I like the song and I like the scene. And I I think I know that some people feel awkward because there are some true people involved and things like
Oh,
that, but
yeah, it's like
but
amazing what this is based on. Like just the fantastical fairy
yeah.
tale that people wanted to believe
But I
on.
love the songs, and I know she doesn't do her own singing in the
No.
movie, but I nevertheless just really like Anya as a character, and
Yeah. It's a great
I
songs
just love
too.
it. I think it's wonderful, and I have huge nostalgia for it. It was one of my favorite movies as a teen, so I mean, I
Yeah,
liked it
it's a
just as much
great.
as Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast back then.
Came out around the same time too, I
Mhm.
think,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this movie I saw years later after it came out, and
Mhm.
I really appreciated it. I said, it's got a great voice cast, and they don't
Mhm. Mhm.
they match their characters that they're
Yes,
playing.
it's not
There's a
showy.
Hallmark connection to it. There's a Hallmark connection with this movie because Lacey Chabert is the singing voice for young Anastasia.
Oh,
Anastasia.
really? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's the singing voice for the younger
Well, and then
version.
you have Angela Lansbury and Kelsey Grammer, and Kelsey
Oh
Grammer,
yeah.
I mean, both of them, they do their own songs, and
I
so
will say that
Marie holds the key to your heart. It's a great song.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Once Upon a December,
Mhm.
right, that's
Yeah.
the name of the song. I hope I got
Yep.
it right. Yeah, it's
Once
great. That's my favorite song
once
from the.
upon yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. And I
yes.
will say though that they do a good job because it is kind of based. These were all real people, and the idea of, you know, this Russian princess surviving this,
Mhm.
massacre, and because it. And there's been so many of this like TV miniseries, like Ingrid Bergman played her in a classic movie
Mhm.
because some lady spent her whole entire life saying she was Anastasia, and today it's like we know 100% that lady was not her, and what really happened to the Romanovs and what happened to the
Mhm.
remains.
Mhm.
So we know all that today, but just it is still and we didn't know what technically it was still kind of like what happened to them or where they buried in 1997, and just the fantastical elements of the fairy tale of where you wanted so hard to believe that somebody could survive something like that they
Mhm.
would believe that. And
Yeah.
there was an element of like
There's a
at least there's
Cinderella
some
kind of
kind of
element.
yes,
Yeah.
like, and I think just making it like as some kind of happy ending
Mhm.
because she was like a kid. She was like 16 or
Yeah.
17, I think, when she
Well,
died.
and I think
So
it's the
people
same as
wanted,
like the Princess Diaries, or this idea of like, oh, I'm secretly a
yes,
princess, I'm secretly, or even
yeah,
Crazy Rich Asians,
yeah,
it's like, oh, this person I didn't even know was basically
yeah.
royalty, was super rich.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
It's
or
appealing.
like
It's
it's
appealing.
appealing, and this is like also like it's the survivor, and
Hmm.
that type of stuff. Of course, Rasputin is evil in this,
Yeah.
as he would be.
Hmm.
It can't keep him dead either in cartoon or
Yeah.
in real life.
Yeah, and I love the whole opening. There's a
Yeah,
stirring in St. Petersburg. Can you tell? And
it's
I
great.
love the on this journey to the past. Like that's
I think
really lovely.
I like this sort of tale, this version of this story better than what I have seen before done of this movie. There's a famous TV miniseries that's more truthful to the story
Mm,
about the woman. And well, when the movie was done in the 80s, nobody really knew if she was or not.
mhm.
It only came out after she died, but of why or why she thought, it's a woman who had a breakdown.
Yeah.
and just
Well, I have
wanted to
to
be somebody
say,
else. I
they
think I like this version of
Yeah.
that than even of the Ingrid Bergman movie or something like that.
So they did a Broadway adaptation of this movie, and I did not care for it. I didn't see it on Broadway. I saw it off Broadway. But they took out all of the fun. They made it really serious. There's Rasputin is not in the movie, which I can understand, I guess, but they replaced him with this general, and the whole
You know,
thing just felt long and very, very serious.
that makes no sense.
Like, it was no
because
fun.
Rasputin is a reason, one of the catalysts of what happened to them in real life, and I
Yeah.
think that he is in.
And he was a
He's just an
soothsayer.
easy person to make one.
He was somebody who dabbled in
Yes,
the
he
dark
was that. He was
arts.
a womanizer, and
Yeah.
and they tried to kill him several times, and he kept on walking. You
Yeah.
ever read about how they have this assassination attempt? He ate all those cakes of poison, and he just got up and walked away. They shot him in the back, and he's just walking away. I mean, there
Yeah.
is a level of where people really think like, man, maybe he was, especially back then.
Yeah.
Really, and his look, they really think that he was just an evil spirit.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to make him the villain and having him sell his soul to the devil, like in this movie and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's easy to make them to take it out and make it more. I guess I haven't seen the musical, the Broadway version or anything.
Yeah.
But from what you say, to make it more being the generals and the soldiers and more
it was just-
realistic
it
to
was-
the actual uprising that happened at that time.
It was like they were trying to make it Fiddler on the Roof, but forgot all the fun in Fiddler on the Roof. Like, I don't know. It was a disappointment to me.
Yeah.
But so what do you have at number 1?
When Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
So I just
it's so
think,
good.
Yeah, so it's funny because my top 3 are all Nora Ephron movies.
Yeah, she's the best.
Sadly, I miss her.
Yeah, I mean, there's
just
been
her
a lot
voice.
of people try to say Nancy Meyers is Nora Ephron, but no. I mean, she's got her own skills, but not as good a writer.
I don't
as
think
Nora
she's as
Ephron.
successful. Yeah, she's not as successful as Nora Ephron, but I would like to see. I know Netflix killed it, but I kind of was like, I want to see Nancy Meyers do her, come back with a rom-com and a romance. I want to see her come up too, because we desperately need that.
Well, and people were like, why could it cost $100 million? But
did you see the cast that she had?
Well, the cast, and also some rom-coms have like action elements, like Night and Day.
Absolutely.
And movies like that.
Yeah.
Which underappreciated, Night and Day, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I agree. That would have been fun. Why not? If they want to spend their, like, I don't really understand why people get all upset about stuff like that, because I'm like, it's not my money. Like, if they want to spend $100 million on a rom-com, okay. Like,
the minute I saw that, I was like, I get it.
Like,
she had like a huge cast originally.
I
hope it comes around, whoever stars in it.
I do.
I hope she gets a chance to make her movie, because I think we need more women in the space of telling these rom-coms. We need also rom-coms of all different age groups.
Yeah.
Do them young, do them old, do them older, because older people still have romance in their lives,
Just want more rom-coms, more.
Yeah, so we just want good and not dumb, because man, there's so many that dumb. Like the 2000s were a dumpster fire of rom-com movies.
We're gonna have it'll be a trial when we're doing the best of 2020.
Maybe we should just skip that.
but or the 2000s, I should say, the best of 2000s will be a trial. But
boy, it's gonna be 1, 2 in the list.
Yeah. But I can totally see why you have When Harry Met Sally. I said I have it 3. I love it. It's such a it's interesting because I don't know what the answer to the question really is. Can men and women be friends? What is the movie? I think because Rob Reiner and Nora were such good friends, I think that they would say, yes, they can be friends. But the movie doesn't really read that way. I mean, if you're following the movie, no, they can't really be friends. And so, because sex definitely gets in the way. Can men and women be friends? Evidently, according to their rule, no.
Again, I also do think that, and this movie came out in 1989, I don't know if they could get away with just having it end with them being friends. I think you can get away with that today.
Mhm.
I think you can tell a great story with a man and a woman, and they have, of just being
Mhm.
friends. When we watch TV shows or soap operas
Mhm.
or whatever, there's some great friendships that are
Mhm.
men and women who never get involved. They're just each other's
Yeah.
best friends or whatever. So it can be done. But I don't
Yeah.
know when they were making, maybe that was the intent of the movie, and then they're like, no, we want to see them together.
Yeah, it does feel
So I
like
don't know if they
maybe
could get
I
away
mean,
with it back then.
I love the ending. And a lot of people at the time, especially compared this to Annie Hall, which does have
Right.
a, a breakup ending. So I mean,
Which I
it's kind of
appreciate in that
interesting.
movie. I do
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate that she like dumps him and like, I can do better. That's
Hmm.
so great.
Well, and just the
Where
little
she's like, no,
interviews mixed in between, that's like very
yeah,
Annie Hall. It's is very influenced by it.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting movie in that way. But it's just so funny and so charming, and it makes you want to go to New York City.
totally. They can really know how to use that.
Well, my number one, it had to be You've Got Mail, and literally have
Yeah.
almost the entire movie memorized, as we've seen already in this podcast.
Seen this movie
I
countless
love it.
times.
I think it
Oh,
is so
now I
funny.
can't remember. I don't remember. Did You've Got Mail come out in the wintertime? Because I know
Mm,
that we battled, my sister, my mother, and I battled either a rainstorm or a snowstorm to drive up to the theater to see this movie.
yeah.
And I can't remember. It was either one or the other, but we're going real slow, driving through all
Yes,
that. And my
December
mother's like, we're
18th.
going to make it. Yeah, okay, so it was a snowstorm.
Hmm.
And my mother's like, we're going to make it and we're going to see this movie.
Yeah. But I think you can make an
We're
argument
driving
that
real slow.
I think you can make an argument that this is a Christmas movie if you want, because it does have iconic Thanksgiving scenes, and it has her decorating the tree and listening to Joni Mitchell. And I wish I was a
True.
river. I could, uh, and
Yeah, it's true. You could there are holidays. It's not the
yeah,
focus of it, but it is that time of year. It's
yeah. And
uh
I just love I love the scene at the Christmas
well,
party when she pulls the knife on him.
I suppose you could
And
do that
it's
with
like,
Sleepless in Seattle too, because that's New Year's and Christmas and Valentine's Day too. There's like a whole bunch
oh
of
yeah, that's
holidays in
true.
Sleepless in Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah,
I said Sleepless in Seattle. Did you?
yeah. I
Seattle.
tell you one thing about Sleepless
Oh,
in Seattle: the Empire State Building, overrated. It is not. I don't think very fun. It is. I would never go again. You have to wait in such a long line. It's just like barbed wire up there. Like the view is fine,
well,
but
now, yeah, because too
there's
many
like
people jumped off
nothing.
of it.
There's
You
nothing
know,
like. I think I don't know. This is the whole experience. It's really
you probably
expensive
had
and
to. Yeah, I'm
it's
not.
no good.
I think the barbed wire was there. Was the bar? I don't know if the barbed wire was there in '93.
maybe not barbed wire, but it's high
I don't know, like
wire
because
and
they
it's
did
just
have to
not.
put that stuff there because too many people were jumping off the building.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
did have to put a protector barrier. I don't know when that came up, but I think it might have been better
It's just
in the
not
past, like in the
worth
50s
it.
or
It's
something.
not worth it. How long you have to wait for like getting up there and be I don't know. Maybe I'm just not that into views, but like
It's just like it's so
for
iconic though now, you
for the
know.
price and how long you have to wait and it's just not no. I would say don't go to the Empire State Building. It's not worth it. But yeah, I
I
just
kind of
love You've
agree
Got
with you. I
Mail. I
agree.
think it is maybe a perfect script. It is so
Totally.
funny and so well cast and got heart to it. And I is somebody who is always sort of fascinated by themes of work and what motivates us in our life and everything. I kind of connect with it, and especially since it's all sort of tied up in her mom and how her identity changes. And I mean, I just love everything about it. I love the fashion. She that when she talks about that her store now will be like a baby Gap.
Yeah.
There's so many good lines.
That is depressing though.
Or
Yeah.
when she says that
Always
Frank looks
depressing.
like she thought Frank was the Unabomber.
How do you feel about some
I just
people
love it.
claiming how do you feel that some people say this movie is that he's stalking her and gaslighting her. Have you heard that take on this movie?
Well, I've heard
That he's
people
a
say
terrible
like
person.
he's unlikable, but like the thing is that so he has this Godfather mentality, the Godfather, that he's
Right.
used to justify his life, that it's not personal, it's business. But
It's
then
business,
as he
right?
comes to know her, he realizes it is, and that's why that scene when he visits her when she's sick is so important. It's the first time that the Godfather has ever really been proven wrong in his
Correct.
eyes, and he
Yeah.
starts to think about it. So I don't have a problem with it because I see enough for this kind of movie.
I do.
I see
I do think,
enough of a
yeah.
transformation. Also, it's Tom Hanks. He's super likable. That helps it, of course. But yeah, I think that you want a dynamic character in a movie, and he is a
Yeah.
dynamic character. He starts out basically drinking the Kool-Aid of Fox Books,
Agree.
and by
Yeah.
the end he is changed as a person enough for me,
Yeah.
at least, and I wanted it to be you. I wanted you so
Yeah, I
bad.
don't think that when I hear that comment, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I don't think you're totally understanding
Mhm.
what happens to him as a character,
Yeah.
because he's not the same person at the end of the movie that he was at the start of the movie.
No, that's
She
why
isn't either. She
Yeah.
isn't either.
I mean, you
So
do have to take the leap of faith with the movie that he would then keep pursuing her. But after the great, I mean, that scene when they're in the cafe on the
oh
date that's not a
yeah,
date is perfect. And when she says, "You are
exactly.
nothing but a suit. Nobody will ever remember you, and maybe nobody will ever remember me, but plenty of people remember my mother and think that she was fine and her store was something special." And then he says, "That's my cue." And so you
Yeah.
have to believe that he would be motivated by that to then start with the twerking,
Absolutely, yeah.
or the tweaking
So
or
I
whatever.
do
And
think that there's a change. I don't think
I
he's
do,
gaslighting her at
yeah,
all,
no,
you know. But
I just
I
love,
don't know.
I
People
absolutely love it.
sometimes people view these movies too much with a modern lens, and you have to give it some grace because it is a movie, and some are terrible. But I do think this movie is there is a change. It's a
Yeah.
slow build up, and through their emails, through their communications.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah. I mean, is
I
she
don't
mad
want,
because he didn't tell her the
I
truth?
don't
Sure,
need,
absolutely. But
I
there's a
don't,
change,
I don't need movies about perfect people,
No, me neither.
it's
So
so
which so is this your favorite version of the three versions of the
a
film?
perfumery.
The yeah,
So, okay, so I actually been thinking about doing an episode ranking the different versions of
yeah,
perfumery, because we've done ones on like Father of the Bride, we've done ones on different franchises. And so there's Shop Around the Corner, there's The Good Old Summertime, there's I kind of include it, a lot of people don't, but She Loves Me, the pro
Oh,
shot,
you're right. Yes.
because I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And then You've Got Mail are the
You're right. I
main.
forgot about She Loves Me, but yeah.
Oof, it's, I mean, definitely Good Old Sometime in the last. And then
I agree. That movie does not totally work, but
mhm,
that end scene is super
it's fine.
sexy.
Yeah, it is.
For anybody who watches it,
It's
it's
not,
super
it's
sexy,
fine, but yeah, the chemistry is not there. And then I would say I think I would have The Shop Around the Corner, just because I think that the suicide is a little much. That for me is just like it's just too much for
Yeah.
like the tone and feel. And I know it was in the original play, but I don't know, it just feels too much to
Now
me
I can't remember.
for
They're
this
they're
kind
set
of
in
movie. But I
Germany,
love
right?
it. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
Yeah, it's not it's German, right?
Well,
It's set in Germany, I believe.
no, they're in
No.
Romania, Bucharest.
Oh, maybe that's it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's right. I'm sorry. I was getting that confused.
Yeah.
But I couldn't remember. I was like, I know it's not America that they're set in, like in the original. I know it's
But yeah,
like
I
set
do.
in
I love it. I
because it's from
absolutely love
another
it. And
country. Yeah.
yeah, and then I would say She Loves Me. I think it's way underrated as far as a musical, Broadway musical. I absolutely love the songs, and I love,
Yeah.
the story. And in the pro shot, Laura Benanti and Zachary Levi couldn't be more charming. And Just great. So that's a wonderful, if anybody has Broadway HD, or if you just sign up for 7 days or whatever, it's on there to watch. But yeah, and then I would have You've Got Mail. It's when I did my top 100 favorite movies about 5 years ago, I had it in my top 10. That's how much I love You've Got Mail.
Yeah, it's great. I agree.
I can
It's
quote
great.
almost the entire movie, and not that many movies I can do that.
If I was doing just a Meg Ryan performance level, like
Mm,
just thinking of her performance, I think
yeah,
You've Got Mail is up there with. I think she's just at her peak. You
yeah.
know, she knows how to play these characters. I think she gives a great performance.
Yep. So there we go. So we had from the patrons, we have so Steve Hahn says When Harry Met Sally and Joe versus the Volcano, his favorite. Colleen Fox Lowe says You've Got Mail is my #1 by a lot. Then Sleepless in Seattle. I also like Kate and Leopold quite a bit. Amber Sires says You've Got Mail. Cynthia Rice Simmons says You've Got Mail, and You've Got Mail, and definitely You've Got Mail.
Totally.
And
And that is why, I'm sorry, but that is
No.
why Meg Ryan was the rom-com queen for so long. Because of Nora Ephron and When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail. Those are why people still look at her fondly as the queen of rom-coms, because of these 3 movies right there.
And if anybody if you've never read any of her books of essays from Nora Ephron, I highly recommend them. They're just so funny. She has one that's on parenting that's probably my favorite of the bunch, that I just really love, and that it's
The one
just
to a cooking, right? The heart, isn't that heartwarming?
yeah.
Oh boy, that movie, man.
So I asked on Twitter as well what my followers thought. And this is where we got In the Land of Amy T91 says In the Land of Women, not a typical romance, but still a romance. And then In the Cut,
she's not really a lead in that, is she? I'm sorry for
yeah,
interrupting. She's not really,
In the Cut,
yeah.
also not a typical romance.
Oh.
But it's sexually explicit, but it's not gratuitous. Meg was different than I've seen her before. So
Yeah, I
that's
forgot
2.
about
I've
that
never seen either of
movie.
those. So
Yeah.
cool. Michelle Benson says, I loved City of Angels. I'm scared to rewatch it in case it hasn't aged well. I go Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail, Kate and Leopold, City of Angels. Amber Arnold says, You've Got Mail, and I love French Kiss. I also feel like IQ is underrated. Laura G says, the all-time classic trio of You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle, and When Harry Met Sally. And Nostalgia Cast has When Harry Met Sally, Joe versus Volcano, You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle, French Kiss. Let's see here. Gina D'Alfonso says Sleepless in Seattle. I remember having a soft spot for Joe versus the Volcano back in the day. I wonder if it holds up. So you saw that. Eric Faulkner, he says, When Harry Met Sally, it is also my favorite Carrie Fisher role, despite being a huge Star Wars fan. And Frank Henry Kofel says, You've Got Mail, When Harry Met Sally, Anastasia, and Sleepless in Seattle. So a whole bunch of different responses. So let us know. I'll put a link to our short list of the 13 that we picked. And so if you want to put your ranking in the comments or do your own video or your own blog post, we would love to hear. Just tag us. That would be so much fun. And if you see the new movie, we'd love to hear what you think of that. And Terry, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter at Flurry Heaven.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And if you could follow us on social media, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. We really appreciate those 5-star reviews. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that. Most of our viewers on YouTube aren't subscribers. And so if you're in that camp, please subscribe. It helps the algorithm a lot. And then we also have the Patreon, and it's a chance to get to read these exclusive reviews like I talked about. And then we also have the patron watch-alongs where you get to hear from talent and Q&As and other fun things. So please take a look at the Patreon. You won't regret it. And you get to be part of these ranking episodes. And so that's really fun. And then we also have the merch store where you can get all kinds of fun holiday designs and Hallmark and Hardee's and Postables inspired designs. So please take a look at that. We have some new Barbie inspired designs. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. And we're so glad to have you back, Meg. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.